let's talk about campaign groups. Now, international campaign group Oxfam is set to expand its capacity to fighting poverty and inequality in the agricultural sector, as well as advocate improved extractive industry governance. Oxfam is raising issues of access to quality health and education in Ghana as well as part of its change management project. I have in the studio with me Lydia Doe. She is manager of People and Culture for Oxfam Ghana, so we can have an idea what Oxfam is doing, what it intends to do, or better one person at a time. You're welcome, ma'am.
Thank you very much.
So apparently today is UN World Girls Day, and we're both girls. Just remember, by the way, that we're still in October and we're looking at how to keep your breasts safe. Okay, so have you heard of the breast campaign, by the way?
I have heard, and for example, in Oxfam, and just encouraging the women, we work with Nyaho Clinic for free screening, just to make sure that people are aware.
Oh, I haven't heard that.
Oh yes, there is.
Okay.
Going on right now. So I will encourage every woman. I believe that some of the polyclinics are running such programs. So
is it up to the end of October?
I believe so.
Okay.
In Yahoo, for example, I know every Thursday doing that for some clients.
So if you haven't taken advantage already of what the Trust Clinic was doing, you announced or came here to announce that they were doing at Adenta, you can make your way to Nyaho Clinic, you say Nyaho Clinic, because they're partnering with Oxfam to make it easy. You know, just go and have your breast checked. You know, I'm all for a healthy breast. Okay, let's talk also about the Girl Day. What does it feel weird to you? I mean, that there will be a day that there's actually a day set aside to celebrate girls?
Well, it's interesting because every day is for women and for girls, I must say.
You're saying that, like, I mean, that's like you're sounding politically correct, but is it really, especially in our part of the world?
Well, as I said, it's interesting we have to set a day aside to celebrate women and girls in particular. Because I think we women, you are women and I'm a woman too. You wake up in the morning and it's from dawn to dusk. So why don't you celebrate women every day?
Right.
Why do we have to set one day aside? But I think it's also significant. So when you do that, you are able to narrow down on some specific issues about girl and address them. So I would encourage that.
Great. So in Oxfam, would you say you have a majority of your staff being women?
I wouldn't say majority of our staff are women, but a lot of us,
you are women. Yes. I will encourage you to employ a lot more women, so because women are more. I mean, and I can't be biased. I'm allowed to be biased in this. Women, they nurture. They know how to nurture. And since you're a relief sort of organization, it would be good to have women in your fold.
In fact, one of our key values is trying to reduce the issues of inequality.
Right.
And even in our own operations, in our HR practices, we ensure that we give women some advantage and support them in the offices so they can do their works better.
Very well, very well. Let's talk about what Oxfam is doing. Oxfam Ghana. I understand you have different branches in Ghana, and at the moment what you want to do is bring them all together. Tell us basically about what Oxfam does and what you're seeking to do.
When we say Oxfam in Ghana, what we are primarily saying or simply saying is that we're bringing all the Oxfam affiliates together under one umbrella so that we have one country director, one country strategy, one budget, and one team. In the past, we used to have Oxfam Denmark, Oxfam US, Oxfam GB, doing similar work within the same country. So why don't we consolidate, and together we are stronger, more agile, and able to provide better results.
And this is not about cutting jobs or reducing employment and anything like that, quite frankly. Because that's what for me as someone who's sitting outside the fence, that's what the reading that I will put on this particular
I know
restructure.
That whenever people talk about consolidating and coming together, measures, we're talking about job cuts. I would say that we work very hard and we will continue to work hard to be sure there's minimum impact on our consolidating on our staff. Our staff is key and we treat them very importantly, and we've done that actually in practice.
So coming together and being stronger, what should Ghanaians expect of Oxfam in Ghana moving forward?
I think coming together, we are stronger, we are better positioned, and we can be deeply rooted in the issues of the country. I'll give an example. Work in areas of agric sector, extractive industry, health, and education. And we know all these issues are not in isolation. And so when you tackle them isolated cases, you don't get the best result. But coming together as one Oxfam, we are better able to look at the connections between these, because you know education affects health.
Right.
Health affects education.
Okay.
Talk about the extractive industry, and we talk about small-scale mining. It affects education, it affects health.
Okay.
So they are connected. So we want to look at those issues holistically, and that is what we are doing.
Okay.
In that way, we can provide better service.
Okay, let me just take your final words, and I'm hopeful to see what Oxfam presents to Ghanaians in the future in terms of supporting with relief, programs, etc. And when you say you're going to help fight poverty, exactly the areas that you'll be focusing on. But let me take your very final words on this.
I would say Oxfam, our main aim is to fight poverty and inequalities. And we've taken 4 sectors in Ghana in doing that, which I initially mentioned, which is in the agric sector, which is key in making sure that we have food adequacy in the country. And also connected to that is the extractive industry, mining, oil sector. Those are key in Ghana. And you know how those affect other areas of our economy in terms of health and education. We want to talk about education. And in Oxfam, Denmark, which was one of the affiliates, the main slogan was education for development.
Okay.
So we want to make sure that women are empowered, they are well educated, and have access to services like every other person within the country.
All right.
So we are here primarily to fight poverty and to bridge the gap of inequality in Ghana.
That is certainly something that I'm looking forward to. As a reporter, I get frustrated when I report on stories of social injustice and we don't get the solutions to. So I'm looking forward very much to what your strength as you come together will provide the people of Ghana. I've been speaking with Lydia Doe. She's manager of people and culture with Oxfam Ghana. And away from reducing poverty, the Institute of Statistical, Social and Economic Research earlier today launched the State of the Ghanaian Economy in 2016 report with specific focus on artisanal small-scale mining and identifying value chains in Ghana. Presenting ASA's State of the Economy in 2016, Director of the Institute, Professor Felix Ankuma Asante, advised government to invest in the agricultural sector.
Crops dominate the agricultural sector, accounting for almost 16% of total GDP and around 80% of total agricultural value added. Part of agricultural output is supplied to downstream agro-processing, but this generates only 1.8% of GDP, 1.6% of employment earnings, and 4.3% of exports. Agriculture's role in the economy extends beyond the sector itself, with industrial and services sectors forming part of the agricultural food system. And from the start, we notice that no single value chain is most effective at achieving all policy objectives. Our priority crops should relate to what our policy objectives are. The 10 highest ranked value chain across 3 selected outcomes, which are reducing rural poverty headcount, diversifying poor rural household diets, and 3, promoting the GDP growth. We noticed that there were 4 products out of the 10 that satisfied all these 3 indicators. And these are in fishing, other oil seeds, fruits and nuts, and vegetables. Okay. And you notice that cassava is effective at reducing poverty and generating growth. So if we're encouraging farmers to grow cassava, what we are doing is that we are hoping that it will help reduce poverty and generate growth. And here the generation of growth is the total GDP. When you go to the Ministry of Food and Agriculture and you ask them their priority crops, you can't count. It's a whole tall list. Every government tries to add to it and try to satisfy all the 10 regions. And I think it's high time we concentrate on some few ones, knowing what we want it to achieve in terms of policy and put our resources in it. The ASM sector has made enormous contribution to the economy of Ghana in gold output, export revenue, and employment. For diamond production, the ASM share increased from 78.2% in 2000 to 100% in 2008. What it means is that virtually the diamond produced in this country is by artisanal small-scale mining. All diamond production is still artisanal, which I just mentioned. And this ASM has about 1 million people employed in that activity. This graph shows gold production by ASM and then gold production by a large-scale mining company. And you see the red is the gold production by artisanal small-scale mining. And you've noticed that they are, contributing quite a lot to the country's output. When you look at diamond, you notice that diamond production is going down, but in terms of percentage share of ASM in total diamond production is almost 100%. So what it means is that you don't have large mining companies in diamond. So all the diamond you see around, most of them is coming from small-scale mining. Despite there being a procedure for the acquisition of licenses to mine legally, the greater majority of small-scale miners operate illegally.